Welcome back. And in this video, again, just continuing that same discussion, the drains. What are the different materials that is usually used for creating these different types of drains? So just quickly go through this. And this is a very important topic for your NEET entrance and MCQ multiple choice questions exams anywhere. So just to go through it, let's see what is there. So material used for drains. Most commonly, in very simple terms, we can just divide the different materials for commonly used drains into three groups. The first one is the rubber, the second one is polypropylene, the third one is polyurethane. These two are polymers of these compounds. The polypropylene is a polymer of propylene, polyurethane, obviously urethane polymer, and the third one is the rubber. Now in rubber, we are again having two varieties. The first one is latex rubber and the second one is silastic rubber, right? Rubber, latex, silastic. The example of latex rubber is the various T-tubes. The T-tubes are usually used in surgery of hepatobiliary region, especially the hepatic ducts, the right or left hepatic ducts or common bile duct. During the surgery, over these tubular structures, we usually use T-tube to drain, right? You must have seen the T-tube. If not, you can Google the images of T-tube and go through it. The latex rubber T-tubes are made up of. One. Second, the various urinary catheters. They are usually made up of silastic rubber. Nowadays, silicon coated urinary catheters are also available, but most of the time, this silastic rubber is being used for urinary catheters. These examples are also a type of drain. The T-tubes, urinary catheters, all are drain. Example of drains. As you remember, what is a drain? Any object that is helping us to drain any organ, the tubular or hollow viscous organ, right? So rubber, latex, and silastic. Latex example T-tube, silastic example urinary catheters. In the second group, polypropylene group, the most of the abdominal drains we are using, they are usually made up of polypropylene, the abdominal drains. And polyurethane, the nasogastric tubes or the Ryle's tubes. Yes, these are usually used for draining the stomach, and that is made up of polyurethane, right? Okay. This is what we have just discussed. The example, the latex rubber T-tubes, silastic rubber urinary catheters for long-term placement, then polypropylene, the abdominal drains, then polyurethane, the nasogastric tubes, various nasogastric tubes. Clear? Very important topic for entrance exam. Very commonly asked questions, MCQs. Then what are the various different types of drains? How can we classify? How can we classify various types of drains? Materials we have discussed. In the previous video, we have discussed the indications and associated complications of putting a drain. In this video, materials used for making a drain, and now the various types of drains, how they function, the mechanism of function, and what are the different examples of various types of drains, right? Okay. Now, the various types of drains, we can classify the various types of drains as broadly into two groups: the passive drains and active drains. Again, this passive drain, we have two groups: the open group and the closed group. Whereas in active type of drain, we are having only closed group, right? Drain is actively functioning, so it is supposed to be closed. So that's why only closed group is there in active type of drain. Okay, a very important slide, especially for all of you. Very simplified version. Here you can see the passive drains, and here the active drains. Three things we are going to see in these two broad groups: the variety of drain, the passive drain, again two varieties, the open variety and the closed variety, whereas in active drain only closed variety is there. Then the next question comes, how does it work? How these different types of drains they work? In open passive drain, we are focusing over this column. Open passive drains, these drains they only provide a conduit, right? Conduit is there, and the secretions they flow around this conduit, right? For example, the corrugated drain, Yates corrugated drain. Clear? Open passive. Passive means passively draining. Open means the secretions they are coming openly, not being collected inside a container. Examples: Yates corrugated drain. When it is used after subcutaneous drainage of abscess, any subcutaneous abscess. If we are draining, we can put a corrugated drain, Yates corrugated drain. Similarly, another example of this open passive drain is Penrose tube drain. The third example is the cetons, the drainage cetons. You must have heard this word cetons in management of anal fistulas. So drainage cetons, they are usually placed in cases of anal fistulas, and this is again an example of open passive drain, right? Yates corrugated drain, Penrose tube drain, and cetons. So open passive drain, we can remember word PCS. P stands for Penrose, C stands for corrugated drain, S stands for cetons. Now let's come to the next column, the closed passive drain. Again, the drain is functioning passively, but that is being stored in a closed chamber. So closed passive drain. And how does it work? There are two important theories, and the first one is it drains by gravity, that is known as siphon effect, and by capillary flow. These closed passive drains, they act via these two methods. The gravity, it is taking the help of gravity or siphon effect, and by capillary flow. Examples: the Robinson tube drain, usually used after intra-abdominal abscess drainage, the drainage of pyoperitoneum or drainage of any intra-abdominal collection. These Robinson tube drain can be used. The various nasogastric tubes for drainage of stomach. You must have seen this nasogastric tube, commonly known as, you must be knowing as Ryle's tube, one of the example of nasogastric tube. It is usually connected with the back, closed back, right? The chest drain, the intercostal drainage tube, these are usually connected with the underwater seal, that closed back, known as tube thoracostomy. These two examples again of closed passive drains. Then the third example is VP shunt, the ventriculoperitoneal shunt, usually used for hydrocephalus. Even these VP shunts, the one end is inside the cranial, the cavity, the ventricles, and the third one is the second end is inside the peritoneal cavity. That's why it is known as ventriculoperitoneal shunt. This is again an example of closed passive drain. Finally, the third column. These are active drains. Okay, passive drain, two columns, open and closed. Active drain. Please remember this slide, very important slide. At least 10 to 15 questions can be formed in just going through this slide only. So active drain, third column. In this group, only the closed variety is there. Why closed variety? Because it is actively functioning. We will have to create a negative suction pressure, and that's why it is supposed to be closed from all around. That's why only closed variety is there. It generates active suction. It could be low pressure or it could be high pressure. All the vacuum assisted drains, they come under this group, the closed active drain. For example, exit drains or mini vac. You must have seen these mini vac or vacuum suction devices. Another example is Jackson-Pratt drains. Very important. Very commonly asked questions as a multiple choice question. This Jackson-Pratt drain is used in which surgery? 1, 2, 3, 4. So these Jackson-Pratt drains, that is an example of closed active variety, and these are commonly used after any extensive pelvic surgery or after breast surgery, right? Mini vac, these can be utilized even in thyroid surgery or during various plastic surgery procedures, right? These things can be utilized. So take home message, there are two broad types of drains, passive drain and active drain. Passive drain open and closed, active drain only closed. Open passive drain, corrugated, Penrose and sit-ons. Closed passive drain, Robinson, the Ryle's tube or intercostal drainage tube, and VP shunt, right? All these things, Robinson, NGT and chest drain along with VP shunt, they're having a closed chamber drainage, right? Then the third one, the active drain, the closed variety is there. Example, the minivac used in various plastic surgeries, and Jackson-Pratt drains after pelvic or breast surgery, right? So that is all for this video. We have discussed the material used in various drains with examples and various types of drains, how to classify drains, how they function, the mechanism of work, regarding conduit or gravity siphon effect or capillary flow or active suction generation with examples. If anything is not clear, you can always write to me. And yes, obviously, if useful, subscribe it, like and share to promote this learning process. Thank you and namaste.